Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'm here with Ryan, and it's come to this.
It has come to this. We're on the back half of the '90s Batman movies.
Yes. Batman Forever. Yeah. Okay, so
This movie went on forever.
this this movie, when was this was mid-90s, right? 95? Is that when this was? Yeah, 1995, PG-13. And we've come off of two Tim Burton films that were successful.
Yeah,
Okay. It was this.
Yep.
This was kind of
they change out the entire cast. They change out the director.
yeah.
Change out the writer, and
That's going to go great.
everything except Batman. Batman is still there, but he's a different Batman.
Yeah.
Different villains. Different Gotham.
What's strange to me? I mean, so behind the scenes, what was going on is you had these first two Batman films, very successful, but the second one, the second Tim Burton with Penguin, there was merchandise concerns. Right, the parents were not excited about the Penguin toy
With the gross slime or something. I don't know. I mean, you can't really sell the Happy Meal with the penguin.
Yeah, murdering people, and then the kind of the S&M aspect of Catwoman.
Sure.
Irritated parents to some extent, or I don't know, but the studio, listening to customers, decided Val Kilmer was the answer, and
Right.
Joel Schumacher, I believe, the director, right?
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
Tim Burton is a producer on this, but he's decided to move on to other things. And, he saw a cut of this and was like, well, what the fuck is this? And, and Gotham becomes more of kind of a neon.
Cyberpunk looking.
Yeah, and they actually use some actual cityscape kind of, real looking things, not the weird, matte paintings and other things.
It was a strange, definitely try to become more family friendly. And apparently, this movie had somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes of cuts, which is kind of weird to think about.
Yeah, no, there is allegedly a Snyder cut, if you will.
A Schumacher cut.
Schumacher cut of this movie with a life-size bat. But nobody cares. I mean...
Yeah, I don't think the Schumacher cut has been trending lately. Like, more people are trying to get that one going, but why?
Yeah, nobody cares.
Like, why do you want to do that? I mean, with the Snyder cut, you have a current property, and he did end aspects of that on a cliffhanger, especially with the Justice League. Like, there's a reason why you might want those other films, but this one, 1995 Val Kilmer Batman, like, why?
Yeah.
Who wants to go back to that?
Yeah.
We'll hear about that in the comments.
Right. So,
sure.
but let's go back to the essential elements of the Batman film.
Sure.
We have the gadgets.
Yeah.
We have the Batman, the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Kind of a shitty Batmobile, kind of shitty Bat gadgets.
Yeah.
We have the villains, which I think we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Batman doing some detective shit.
Yeah.
Kind of shitty Batman detective shit.
Yeah.
But the villains, we have Two-Face, we have the Riddler.
Right. So they doubled the villain. So, last time we had whatever Christopher Walken was doing, and then we had the Penguin and Catwoman.
Right.
In this one, they're like, well, we got to bring multiple villains. So they decide to race swap Tommy Lee Jones in as Two-Face.
Yeah.
So I find this is, people are today complaining a lot about race swap. Well, this is a case where they took the original white Two-Face, and then he became Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
In the
first movie.
The first movie. And then there was a double swap to Tommy Lee Jones, who, and keep in mind, all the names in this movie are
the whole
popular.
cast. The whole cast, I think, is basically at the height or near the peak of their powers. I mean,
yes.
So Batman, Val Kilmer.
Yep.
Riddler, Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Chase Meridian, Nicole Kidman.
Yep.
Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face.
Yep.
Chris O'Donnell as Robin.
Well, you're correct. This would be the
the height of his power.
This is the height of what he would be. Yes.
But he is the height of his wet blanketness.
Yeah.
Personality.
Chris O'Donnell, a Seattle kind of resident, right?
Is he?
Well, he was during this time.
I don't know. And Drew Barrymore as
a whore.
I don't know. I'm not even sure why she's in there.
I'm not sure she understands that either.
Yeah, it was a weird time for her, but
So
mid 90s Drew Barrymore walking around in lingerie.
yeah, sure.
Sure.
We right before we started this video, you reminded me that she was in this movie,
Yeah, and you had to look it up.
and I had forgotten. I had just seen this movie, but it hadn't clicked.
Right.
Yeah.
No, if I had to look it up as well because I'm like, I think that's Drew Barrymore. And
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that's Drew Barrymore.
So she plays Sugar.
Right, and I'm assuming that the one in black lingerie is Spice, but
Why not?
Who could be sure?
Who knows these things? What's weird about this, and again, as I was looking up that Drew Barrymore was in this, this film is panned today, right? Like this one, I mean,
think this is like the forgotten one because the one that comes after it
is super panned.
It eclipses the terribleness of this movie, but
yeah.
yeah.
Well, so here's the crazy part. So the critics on Rotten Tomatoes give this a 71% approval rating. How is that remotely possible?
Yeah, I mean, there are parts of this movie that I think are watchable,
Sure.
and there are parts of this movie that are okay. But I came away watching this thing. Like the script is just insanely bad. Like
Yeah.
the performances are really flat. Like thinking of like the Star Wars prequels, like the chemistry between the what's his name.
Anakin
and what like how much he hates sand.
Yeah.
That's the kind of chemistry we're talking about.
We've got sand level chemistry.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Why? Let's get to the nipples in the room. So why did they decided to add nipples to the costume in this one?
I mean, if this movie was good, nobody would care.
Right. Well, maybe.
No. And at a certain point, the whole Batcave gets blown up.
Sure.
And then he puts on the experimental batsuit, which doesn't have nipples.
Yeah.
And then again, the batsuit doesn't have nipples. So who cares?
Okay, that's fair.
I'm going to say yes. So yes, the batsuit does have nipples, and the Robin suit probably has nipples. Who cares?
I'm just picturing like Alfred there with the mold of the bat suit,
right.
and it's like that's a conscious choice. Like we will add some nipples in here.
Yeah.
We don't want any chafing.
Yeah. Who was the model for the nipples?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions here. Okay, so this one also in the previous movies, one of the complaints, but it's a weird one because I don't know if anyone actually complained about this. Talked about the lack of romance, and in this one.
Well, I think in every movie,
there is
Batman
romance,
is
right?
Falling in love and revealing that he's Batman to it.
Sure.
It was Vicky Vale, and then it was Catwoman, and then it's Chase Meridian.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know that was a problem. But in this one, they were determined to lean in more to the relationship aspect of Bruce Wayne, and there's a scene in this where he's trying to figure out if Chase likes Bruce or Batman.
Yeah.
And then
she's really into Batman.
Yeah, she's horny for Batman.
Right.
Well, it's the nipples.
Well, I mean.
Yeah, I mean.
Everybody is into those nipples.
Yeah. But she's really into Batman, and Val Kilmer is feeling like she just doesn't care about him as a person.
And, he's a billionaire playboy, so.
Yeah.
I mean.
But in the end,
in the end, the money and the charm, she comes around.
Yeah, she decides billions is where like the billions of dollars will outweigh the.
He takes her to the circus, and she changes her mind.
Yeah, that is Why? Okay, yeah. There's a lot of strange choices here, but there is this odd scene where he learns that he goes to her as Batman.
Yeah,
and then she says, "I'm in love with someone else," meaning Bruce. And he's happy about that because she's chosen the man over the Batman. And then he's ready to retire.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just didn't want to make another movie or something.
They were reading the customers' minds after they'd watched the film. Right. Okay.
It's going to turn the reins over to Robin.
Yeah. So you mentioned the circus. So they go to the circus, and this is where they kind of make some vague attempt to kind of tie into the comics because we see what struck me is So explain this scene to us. So Bruce has decided to go with Chase to the circus on a date.
There's some sort of charity thing. There's always some sort of charity.
Charity circus. Why not?
Right. Yeah. And you got the Flying Graysons and some sort of bomb.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, Two-Face got the bomb, right?
Sure.
And the Flying Graysons like leap. The Chris O'Donnell leaps into action to get rid of the bomb.
Right.
But the whole sequence of like the Flying Graysons are kind of pseudo not crime fighters, but like I can't tell what they're doing. Like when somebody comes in with guns and a bomb.
Well, they're acrobats and they're up high, and I don't know.
Why are they flipping around? I mean, because they get shot down and killed, basically.
Well, they're trying to they pull the bomb up and they throw it
right
off the dome, or Robin does, but the other three die.
Yeah.
They fall.
Well, they get shot and fall.
Sure, whatever.
Yeah, but what like that whole scene, all that seemed very stupid, and Chris O'Donnell's acting did not carry this scene. I would say. What are you going to do?
Well, I think we've already established that Chris O'Donnell he's a great wet blanket.
Yeah.
I don't know. He has weird sideburns in this movie and an earring, and it's very weird. But he's at the height of his powers here, coming off of Cinema One, and yeah.
Who is this movie? Who is this movie being built around? So it felt at one point I was thinking about this that this seemed to be a movie like who's the anchor personality in this movie, and I seemed to come to the conclusion it was Jim Carrey.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
So how was that? But this was like a terrible Jim Carrey movie.
I think because the script is so bland, and everybody else is so bland, and Jim Carrey is just improvising 100% of the time. It's sort of like the genie in Aladdin. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they just let him go. And some of it is terrible, and some of it is the best part of the movie because it is the only thing that is going on in the movie that has any life to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because he's just kind of doing an imitation of the 1960s Riddler at times, and he's also doing standard Jim Carrey stuff, and he's insane.
Yeah, he is kind of all over the place. That sometimes it's like his TV persona. There's definitely Jim Carrey in there. Like you said, sometimes it does seem like he's channeling the '60s Riddler.
Yeah.
But you're right. It seems all over the place, and that's a case where if there was such a thing as a Schumacher cut, that you kind of wonder what else Jim Carrey was doing on that set.
Right. Well, I think you could tone him down in the edit. I think you could tone him up in the edit, and I think he is kind of toned up in the edit as it is. So to say, yeah, he's a little over the top. Jim Carrey is a little over the top. Yes, that is a true statement.
Jim Carrey's being Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey at the time is a little over the top. That is a true statement. And what are you going to do?
Yeah.
That you hire Jim Carrey to be over the top.
It made the Tommy Lee Jones aspect, because a lot of this movie is Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones running around together, and it made the two of them just like Tommy Lee Jones looks old, lost, and confused.
Yeah. No, and he's pretending to be happy to be around Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not even sure. Like, there are riddles. Yeah. The Riddler has riddles. I'm not even sure that they matter.
They don't seem to. No.
They one of them is a clock, and one of them is a match, and one of them is things on a tennis court, or they're vowels, and you put them together, and it's Mr. E. It's Edward Nigma. No shit. Like, everybody who saw a commercial, this is where it's like, if there was actual detective work, not people who saw the poster on the movie theater, it's like, oh, it's the guy who has been antagonizing Bruce Wayne for the whole entire movie.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, so we get his origin story, which is basically he's built a machine that allows you to be inside of TV.
No, you're right. He's doing some sort of 3D thing, and then when you boost the power on it, he can suck your thoughts into his brain, and his plan is to make himself smart,
Sure.
and that is his plan.
Yeah, he wants to be very smart.
So he makes this device.
Yeah, he
And
frames and murders his boss.
right.
Yeah. And then he's wanting to get Batman's, because Batman is an awesome detective, as we've seen.
Well, he wants to get revenge on Bruce Wayne as well.
Right.
So he tries to read Bruce Wayne's mind, and he sees a giant bat, and then he's like, "Aha! I am smart."
Because he's smart. Yeah. And this is the Riddler has his identity, which they then manage to put back in the box at the end at the asylum.
Yeah.
But again, all the scenes he's at with so Tommy Lee Jones is just very strange in this film. He seems like he's trying to pretend to be crazy, but he doesn't really want to be there. Like you feel uncomfortable, especially in the beginning parts of this movie, watching Tommy Lee Jones, because it really feels like he does not want to be in this movie at all.
Yeah.
And
no, there's one particular scene where they it's Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of kids ring the doorbell at Wayne Manor. Again, great security because kids can open the door, and Alfred gives them candy.
Yeah.
And then the Riddler and Two-Face are like outside going hee 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 hee, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to ring the doorbell and also, break into Wayne Manor
and get some candy, maybe.
and get some candy potentially,
Yeah.
Or you got to figure maybe they, kneecapped those kids and took their candy as well.
You kind of
It's off scene. Maybe that is in the extended cut.
That's what we need the Schumacher.
We need
cut
that
for.
Schumacher cut.
Okay. Yep.
But and then at that point, the Riddler blows up the Batcave and destroys a bunch of stuff and causes mayhem.
Yeah.
But it's like in that scene, you see kind of Tommy Lee Jones really kind of acting childish, and you're like, "Oh, I feel bad for you."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, what was he? He did that movie with Harrison Ford right about this time.
The Fugitive.
Right. And he was coming off of a pretty this is
right. This is like from The Fugitive to you got U.S. Marshals to the Men in Black. That's a really good run for him.
And this was the shooting that run right in the groin.
Right. No, I mean this is somewhere in the middle of that run. But I mean, again, I think the late '90s is a really good run for him.
Yeah. Well, okay. So speaking of shooting in the groin, this movie also had, because of the nipples, and also there were a number of just close-up shots on the crotch that happened. And so there was a whole Christian parents movement saying this was stealth homoeroticism, mind-washing of children. Do you remember that?
I don't, but I mean, they're always mad at something.
That became a big deal in this movie. That like the leather outfits, and this is like outrage. Just what outrage looked like in the mid '90s was Batman too gay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, do they know about Batman and Catwoman?
Well,
I mean, heroes don't do that.
That's true.
That's the official position.
That's the official.
Maybe they should get outraged.
Yeah, maybe so. But it caused enough problems. I remember that there were statements where that Val Kilmer made, and people there were statements from the film that Batman is straight. Like they had to come out and say that.
Well, I mean, there is kind of like the ambiguously gay duo kind of aspect of it.
That started up about this time, mid '90s.
Sure. I mean, it's
SNL started doing that,
and it's Chris O'Donnell and Batman. Just
well, I mean, yeah, it's comical. Going back and watching the beginning of this, I was surprised because I'd forgotten that there are like these a handful of zoom ins right on butts and things, and apparently that was enough to get people uncomfortable. So that's again outrage in the '90s, kids. That's what you got. How Nicole Kidman was just kind of there for this, right? I mean, she's horny for Batman.
I mean, she's just there reading lines. I mean,
yeah,
major part of the plot, but I think in the end she's there to be service to the end part where
the choice
where she's in a cage, Robin's in a cage, and Batman has to say one or the other, and somehow he manages to save them both because he's Batman.
Yeah, pick love or heroism.
Right.
Love or being a hero,
Yeah.
which mirrors the choice he has of Bruce Wayne or Batman, which is she going to choose. So it's that same. It's very deep psychologically.
Is it?
No,
No.
not at all actually. But yeah, he just saves both. So it was a shitty choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should talk about the soundtrack.
Yeah, so absolutely. So that was probably the most endearing thing about this, right? Because this featured U2
Yeah.
doing kind of the big.
You got U2, and you have the Seal song.
Yeah.
Which was really big.
Yes.
But you also have a lot of like modern stuff. You have Offspring.
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
And that's in while the film is going on. There's an Offspring song in the middle of this film.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some, if not Wu-Tang, I think there's like a RZA something rather, or somebody, somebody in there. I mean, there's a bunch of just random,
a legit soundtrack.
Just the full catalog of Warner Brothers. This is kind of that era of we're just going to take all our top artists and build a full
and put them on Batman.
Soundtrack. Yeah.
And this movie did make quite a bit of money. Actually, it was a record breaker for opening weekend, which was $52.8 million in those charming days when $52 million was a record-breaking time. And then it made $152 million worldwide. Opening weekend, I believe, which was huge. It passed the second Batman, and that was the it was defeated for the year by Toy Story, just for what it's worth. But that was this was a blockbuster film of a lot of people spending money to go see this and being super pissed after.
Yeah, no, I mean it was bad at the time. It was like the second time in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years that you see the Batman origin story where you with the pearls and the gunshot and the and then you see it again and again and again.
They seem to really be obsessed with continuing to go back over and over with that, which I've never fully understood. It basically in our end though, Batman defeats Jim Carrey. And then he defeats Tommy Lee Jones, Two-Face, by basically taking all of his laundry quarters and throwing them up in the air.
Right. He makes him, have to choose. He gives him a choice, and then he, of course, flips his coin, and he throws a bunch of other coins at him, and then he's like, "Oh no,
too many coins!"
And then he falls to his death or something.
Falls down a cave, sort of.
A hole. No, they're in a play set of some sort. Sure. I don't know.
Well, this film did do its job in terms of getting more toys and merchandise out, so that was good. The advertisers and the sponsors were happy. I'm just still surprised. My memory of this, like you said, was that it was terrible. I went to see this in the theaters, and I'm like, this is awful. And I remember convincing people, like, hey, you remember those first 2 Batman movies? They're superhero movies, but there's some art to it. They're more adult. And then we go to this, and I think it was Tommy Lee Jones. Everybody kind of expected what Jim Carrey was going to deliver, but it was Tommy Lee Jones that I think pissed everybody off. I think he was the and not him the actor, but the fact that he was so cartoonishly stupid.
Yeah. What about Val Kilmer as Batman or Bruce Wayne? We haven't really talked about him. I mean, that's
true. So I don't hate. I mean, it's funny because I will take Val Kilmer Bruce Wayne over what came next. So that I think was much worse. But it was funny. When Michael Keaton was put into the role, there was a lot of people who were not happy with Michael Keaton. And then when Michael Keaton was taken out of the role, people didn't understand why the hell Michael Keaton was out. Yeah. Like he won them over to some extent. So Val Kilmer seemed to me just kind of dry.
Yeah, no, the thing is, it's what I keep saying is the performance is very flat, and I'm not sure that it's his fault. It's like it's all these people who are very good and who are very good outside of this film, who are
Chris O'Donnell
who are very flat in this movie. So I'm not sure I can hold it against Val Kilmer. I think he's a perfectly fine Batman, and I think he's a pretty okay, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I think he was a better Batman than Bruce.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases. I think Michael Keaton was a good Bruce, just in kind of what he did. But Yeah, maybe Chris O'Donnell infected everyone, and just no. Poor Chris O'Donnell, just crap on him the entire time. Wasn't he dating Drew Barrymore? Wasn't that the deal? I think I believe the two of them lived up here in the Pacific Northwest, and I remember you could go to Pike Place Market on the weekends and run into Chris O'Donnell, and that was like everybody was very excited about that for like 2 months.
No, I had a friend who was very obsessed with Son of a Woman.
Okay.
And in that
the movie.
The
right.
movie, yes.
Okay, yes.
And others.
Sure.
But no, and I mean in that movie he's a wet blanket.
Right.
So in that movie he's perfectly cast.
Yeah.
And who knew that
that would be his thing.
That is his thing.
Yeah. We're going to look him up later and find out like he's
No, I think he's on one of those procedurals where he can just be, he can just get a paycheck.
I think he's donating money to poor children in third world countries.
I'm sure he's doing good. I think he's in some rom-coms and does some other things.
No. The guy is a perfectly nice guy.
I'm sure.
But
hey, we got another movie where we get to watch him.
Yeah. So all in all, is of the original four, is this the second worst?
Yeah. I mean, I like some of the Jim Carrey stuff, and I hate some of the Jim Carrey stuff. Like the things that are the best about this movie are also kind of the worst about this movie. So
yeah, okay,
yeah.
So our next stop here is Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin. Yeah.
And this is the one where
we got Batgirl.
Yeah.
We got.
She's coming off her stint in Clueless.
Yeah, we got Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, Poison Ivy, Bane.
Yep.
Yeah, just all kinds of things.
All kinds of things.
No, that one seems to go all wrong. Yeah. This was not a great film. I was surprised by looking this up and seeing that it's reviewed fairly high, which is bizarre to me.
I mean, I think people wanted to like it, or maybe people didn't want to, hate it, or people didn't want to hate a kids movie, or that's just the way they wanted to see it.
Yeah. I was just reminded of this. One of the kind of backstage things was because you mentioned that Tommy Lee Jones looked unhappy, but apparently, there was plenty of backstage shenanigans between the two, and it's unclear like what was what. I'm reading something here that said that Tommy Lee Jones apparently told Jim Carrey he hated him and his films, and Jim Carrey took that personally, as it turned out, and thus they became a problem. Anyway, all right. Well, we've got one more to go in this Bat run.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to move on to probably some stuff in Marvel.
Yeah, we'll have to find some other 90s comic book movies.
Yeah, a Blade. Let's do Blade. Because that'll just be a fun couple movies. All right, well, let us know what you think of this film in the comments below. Batman Forever. Love it, hate it. Put it in the questions and comments below. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye, nerds.